Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our Japan run here. Last episode, we got free of Mummy's Market and set off on our own because we're an independent rice warlord and we don't need no mummy. What we will be doing this episode is we've pretty much also cleared our queue. It really feels like a little bit of a fresh start, you know, kind of being recognized GP, like full power Japan. You know, we kind of don't necessarily have the GDP like we would normally want by 1900 or anywhere close to that. I think the early episodes failing to pass agrarianism and hitting the Mappy penalty for so long was a pretty big deal. Also, Japan not having any state that has both coal and iron, I think is actually pretty significant in terms of downsides for them. But we will be disbanding the Consolidated Steelworks here, I think, which is we're going to lose out on army defense. And I think what we're going to look for is tools are going to be one of the more profitable industries. But let's just go through, you know, here, and we're going to sort by earnings, and we're just going to skim through and see which look like they'd be profitable. You know, glass is pretty good too. It looks like. I'm thinking, ooh, so maybe tools are not the way to go, and we instead go on a little bit of a glass and furniture binge, because those two are linked together. We do see that steel has some pretty depressed earnings, especially because Transvaal's not even incorporated. I don't even know if we want to build up there, you know, because non-incorporation now has some, you know, additional penalties to it. Like, for example, all these industries have negative throughput, negative from incorporated state, and negative from colonial exploitation. And so while this tooling workshop is really profitable because of the effects of Mappy and the fact that there are a ton of mines here, so we get, you know, really we get spiked up tool prices relative to the market price, and then we get also much cheaper. We get to bring down the input costs on some of these. Despite this, it might not be worth it, and so you know, because of the negative throughput, I think it's still worth it, but not like as worth it, if that makes sense. We also, migration attraction is relatively good modifier. We could also, let's check the resource industries as well, you know, and see what the earnings look like there. So we see coal actually looks pretty good in some spots. Gold, of course, is already built out. Oil is, we'll actually put in a couple of these in oil to just expand and kind of get us started a little bit. Sulfur doesn't make much. Earnings in general is much lower than like 1.3 and 1.4, which is kind of why I think we need to, or perhaps this is just a bad run, but perhaps, you know, we need to think about what is good in this new context of depressed Mappy. Also, they might diminish the effects of Mappy, or, you know, and that is the market access price indicator, or whatever it's called. I forget what the I stands for, but I guess we're gonna go off on the glass and the furniture here. And so now we're kind of good. I think we're gonna let the queue clear out completely for our auto queue buildings. Notably, our auto queue got bricked because we swapped countries to kind of fix a little bit of fuzziness, and then see, it's Transvaal, it's like rearing its ugly head. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to look to push economies of scale here in Kanto, and so we'll just you know, crank this up to 51 here, and then we'll look to do some profitable ones, you know, in a couple other places. It looks like they're really not that profitable, but we could also build furniture, and the reason we swapped the company again is for this construction throughput on our stuff. And so we will be checking that out. And we see earnings. Yeah, we have a lot of earnings in GNZ. Now, we do have to keep an eye on the fact that we are having a construction inefficiency in some of these states, and so while we have this sort of malice, I don't think we're going to try and build too much in these Chinese states, at least at this juncture. But we might build rice plantations. We might kind of get back on our BS, and so do this type of thing. So I guess it's just kind of adding a smattering in some of these states here. Now, Tohoku, we will also make sure we lay down some other stuff. Now, do we have... I think we are also having radical problems in general, you know, and so I think we would like to get on to guaranteed libs if we could, but that might be a little bit of a tough ask for us. You know, we're... Overall on our law passes, we're not doing too hot. You know, censorship is not the easiest to pass. Specifically, this guy is authoritarian. I guess we would like to exile him. We don't really want an authoritarian, and we get a protectionist instead, who will be a little bit better for us. Also, we have protectionists in Meiji. Maybe we could do something on that front, but we'll be off and away. I think that also, yeah, getting out from under some of these negative effects would actually be really nice. We're not in a spot where we can really decrease taxes, but, you know, I do think getting onto guaranteed libs in particular would help out a lot. We are also still in this war with the USA. I forgot what we got swayed for. Might have just been war reps, something like this, nothing too crazy. But you know, we are in on them in a few spots, and so hopefully we can enforce on them. But if not, it's probably not too big a deal. I don't think they have a war goal on us. You know, we just have American war reps is what we're going for. I think we have relatively high infamy, and we are also going to cake up Mexico if that goes through. We see that we have a little bit of extra authority, so we could do this and add a consumption tax. Can add it on liquor. I think we had taken that down to try and re-inject money into the economy, but I'm not sure how big a deficit we want to run. Big nice on the gantry cranes. We are, of course, researching ironclad actively, and we're hoping to get onto more industrialized port types of things. So it's always kind of important to, like, read through the events, which, like, seems like a trivial thing, but checking when you can get a bonus and when you can get juiced up is actually pretty nice, because if we get +2 IG approval here, we will bring the Industrialists up to being loyal and get to this +20% capitalist investment pool contribution efficiency, which will help out quite a lot. We're getting a decent chunk from the investment pool. You can see that, you know, kind of tick up there. It comes down a little, but we're in okay shape. Having some trouble enforcing on Mexico here, and I noticed in the queue, we had actually prepped some steel kind of at the back of the queue, so we moved that to the back, and we'll switch back to the steel stuff, I think, as we kind of cruise through some of this furniture and glass, maybe. We'll actually probably put a lot more glass at the front, because we are trying to switch on to steel frame buildings, and so glass will be particularly useful, and we want to, if we're going to switch back to steel, we do want to get kind of all the glass out while we can. So we're going to sort by earnings again, and we will see again that the earnings are particularly, ooh, Guangxi. Why do you not have, okay, you do have a construction inefficiency malice, and so we will avoid building in these states, at least for now, and so we'll put at the front of the queue quite a bit in any place where we're not kind of eating a malice. We do have a malice in Xiaozhou, this is because of radicalism, but in Tohoku, I'm certain we don't have a malice, and so we'll crank that one up, and Kanto, we'll crank this one up as well. Just kind of moving on up, and we'll take a look and keep doing this in some other states as well. We actually got enforced out of the USA war, which is a little bit disappointing. I kind of don't like the fact that when you're in a war, it doesn't show like how quickly you are to getting enforced out in terms of the UI, you know, so that you don't know exactly what's happening, because the enforcement is on Mexico that it's like looking at in terms of the score. So we missed out on some war reps there after kind of spending a little bit of money trying to get something done against the USA, but I think that well, actually, Mexico probably loses this now without our help, and we didn't really want Mexico to lose this. We wanted them to kind of get this in, but because they wanted to return stuff, we weren't able to take them down because we didn't occupy all this stuff. We actually, in retrospect, should have been more careful to occupy Rio Grande, Texas, and this other stuff instead of trying to occupy the capital, maybe. This would have been an improvement on how we could have fought this war. Specifically because if all of this was in, we could have ticked them below 0. But now they might accept some sort of white peace, I assume, at some point in time after a little fighting occurs. Of course, they do have Russia and Germany, so maybe they win it. We'll see how that shakes out. So this is a pretty big inflection point because we already have gantry cranes, so the ironclad plus gantry crane sort of combo is going to allow us to swap some stuff over. We're going to swap over a couple of these things too. But again, can't swap over too much things, but here we can swap to steamships, we can swap to steam hulls, and here's actually the problem. We're actually going to not swap over the military because we can't upgrade all of our ships because of the current state of what's going on in 1.5. Otherwise we would want to, but ooh, covered markets. Not sure. Okay, well, whatever. We're trying to swing it. We're trying to make that work now. we're just going to swap over some other stuff in terms of the PMs. But it is very important. We definitely need to delete the unit there. It is very important that, you know, we kind of swap up onto industrial ports here. We're going to gain access to, we're going to go from 1,800 convoys to a bunch more convoys. This will allow us to use the steamers for this. And, you know, maybe it's the case that you want to have a split economy and not go industrial port. But this has, for a long time, been kind of a very strong play pattern. And then we'll also come down and turn on the steamers on all of our fishing, which is going to make a big difference and be pretty nice for us. Now, we want everything on sawmills, and we definitely want everything on automatic irrigation. I forget which territory we had taken to make it so that these swapped out. Maybe there was a rev and we just forgot to reset our stuff, something like this. We'll clean the rest of it up, but expecting to see the convoys jump up, and then we can have more trade, you know, and in particular, this is going to allow our, you know, huge rice routes to grow, especially it's going to let us put in new rice routes, and we are starting to get to the point where the rice price is not as nice and depressed, and so maybe after, you know, we go on a little bit of a building rampage, we kind of tear through some glass and furniture and then a little bit more steel back here. Maybe we switch back to the rice throughput and re-rice up as a kind of way of concluding the run, maybe trying to push the GDP a little bit at the end here, because I think we're kind of about done with our little bit of rice experiment. So we get on to elected bureaucrats here, which is going to help us to kind of be more institutionally oriented. We definitely want to increase the size of some of our institutions, particularly law enforcement would be really nice, because in our Chinese provinces we would like to build there, and we can't build there too much right now because they have turmoil, and so if we can upgrade some of these, you know, we're going to try and see if we can 51 any of these. We see that we don't have any construction penalties here in Kanto in the capital, and so we're just going to 51 up to the top of the queue and look to upgrade our institution for law enforcement. This will hopefully give us enough bureaucracy to get that ball rolling. We only need 300 more, and then we can start getting this up and decreasing the penalties from turmoil, because we have a decent amount of turmoil in like states like Shanxi, which is giving us loud cars outside and negative state construction efficiency. We also have baked a little bit of a war with Russia and Iraq. Hopefully we'll be winning it. We're trying to subjugate Iraq. We want that tasty, tasty oil, of course. And of course, we decided to kind of go for a combustion engine. And the reason why is we wanted to Tokyo drift our way into the end of the run with having in Tokyo, aka Kanto, of course, automobile production and some of the biggest automobile production in the world. So for this last batch of steel here, we have swapped back to being on steel production, but I think, or the steel production company, but I think what we're also going to do here is we're going to finish swapping over to steel frame buildings everywhere, which is kind of going to add a 200 construction, but it's also going to make these steel mills pretty profitable, and so now we will kind of get kind of a little bit of a last look at what our earnings are going to be like in several places, and we see that, yeah, our earnings have gone up in some spots, in particular where we do have negative state construction efficiency in some of these places, but Beijing's not too bad, and we do want to get the ball rolling in Beijing. We're going to do the same in Shikoku and Xiaozhou, and this will be pretty good. We are coming up to 51 here, and I think that this will be kind of more than enough steel, given just kind of looking at the earnings, but let's take another look at the tools earnings. The tools could use some work. They're notably profitable in a lot of spots. I think having low-level tools in a lot of different spots is probably going to be relatively better than what we've done, where we've built pretty tall. I don't know why we have +7 in Beijing coming from, you know, the auto queue, but we would want some in Shanxi, perhaps. Why don't we put a railway in Shanxi, because it is low on the infrastructure. But after this, I'm not sure exactly what company... Oh, yeah, of course. There could be only one company reasonably enough, or reasonable, that we could swap to, and that's of course the rice farm. We are not, we are no longer the rice warlord, we are the rice businessmen making business deals. Alright, it's time. We put back in the Agricultural Development Society. You know, we have a bunch of extra convoys as we put down rice farms, decrease the local price. The price will be sticky because our trade routes ought to increase. I mean, we're using quite a bit of convoys on trade routes, and so this means that the earnings will get to stay kind of sticky, and you see that the earnings, you know, we're having 1.5, this sort of thing, and it's like, well, you know, your earnings on steel, the earnings on steel were pretty good, man. Like, it's about the same as the earnings on steel. Yeah, steel costs 800 construction. Rice farms cost 200. If we take a look at wheat farm, it's got a half, or millet farm, it's got like half the profitability here, and it's only super profitable in places that are like built up and don't have any like rice already. So, like, this is the absurdity here, right? It's 2 buildings for the price of 1, and we'll say if it's free, it's for me, and we will crank up to our economies of scale caps here in a lot of these places, and just look to 51 them. You know, max economies of scale, max rice. This should suffice for a way to end the run as we drift into... I wish there was something else that I could rhyme with rice other than head lice, which is the common one. So we will add a whole bunch of this. Yikes, we need some infra here, though. Or do we need more rice? This is the real question. Now, we do have negative construction efficiency in a couple of these places, but you know what? It kind of doesn't matter because rice is so good. Alright, it's just... Who cares if you have negative 20% state construction efficiency when it's being overridden by the company anyways? 1. And 2, it's 2 buildings for the price of 1, so you could have negative 50% and it would still be like a reasonable looking thing. But we did see we need a lot of railways in Canada. Oh, it's because... We don't actually need a lot of railways, it's because we're getting a little dookied on in this war, because you get to land for free, and so we have the negative 20 infrastructure, which is a little bit annoying. We're trying to re-land behind, but we didn't have a navy in this area, so it's going to take a little while, and we're also trying to push back, but that's going to take a while too. We're pushing in this war. We sided with them in exchange for, you know, a little piece of this in Mauritania, which of course makes that a problem for them, but that's not our problem, that's their problem. But yeah, we will be coming up on an enormous amount of rice very, very, very shortly, which will be nice because it's rice. Look at all this. 12 pages of rice. Is it enough? Probably not. So the naval landing's taking forever to come in. Still obviously very buggy with the current 1.5 setup. We notably can't put in another naval landing, even though we had guys on both fronts and they had no troops. We weren't watching this Kutai thing very closely, but they're probably going to enforce on us here. It looks like, because we can't re-land at any point in time, you know, like... Oh, now we can re-land because we've been standing armies down, so that'll be nice. I guess we'll stand more armies down. We'll just demobilize a few smattering. These guys aren't mobilized. So these guys aren't mobilized, yes. And they're just bugged out, which is why we can't navally land with them. There's a couple other that are like this, but this is preventing us from winning this war because we have to do a landing. We're kind of in okay shape here. Hopefully our landing comes in at some point, or our troops get back at some point. Because Iraq capitulated, what ended up happening is, of course, when Iraq capitulates, it unassigns all the people from all the fronts, which is a little bit of... How expensive is that versus academics in Kanto? Whatever. But we are finishing up and cranking up absolutely into the like upper stratosphere with this rice. Now we are kind of losing some money, so I guess we'll up taxes to try and you know, make things work, which decreases us a legitimacy tier. We are kind of trying to make that happen, but alas, poor Yorick, we knew him well, Horatio. You know, I assume once we push them out of here, Russia will be kind of more willing to maybe play ball, and give us war reps in exchange for banning slavery, because we don't care about banning slavery. Now, if they want to enforce on us. Now, of course, we cannot land their capital, because we have to wait for our guys to demobilize, and we do have enough to enforce on them, but since they ticked us below 0, we have no navies ready to go. We will just recruit, yeah, market liberal, sure. But with this, the current iteration, if you were thinking about playing on 1.5, before we're currently in the open beta. It's very, very rough, trying to get, you know, some things done. I guess we do need to subsidize everything, but, you know, we're trying to get in there. Now, we do want to come in, and let's see, do we have tax? Bad tax somewhere? We do. but where do we have the least construction inefficiency? And Shaanxi looks like it's got pretty good on the construction. And the idea is we are, again, trying to increase the institution to a higher level of law enforcement because we have the turmoil in various places. Okay, obviously, frankly. But we should get a free occupation here, but the problem is they'll just re-push us. And when we land, this is something, when you have like island landings, you push, you land, you get all of it for free because landings are like broken, and then once you get all of it for free, they immediately push you out, so there's not going to be much doing. But this is just kind of commenting on the current war system. We'll get these wars cleaned up one way or the other, probably us losing some of them. But it goes like that. Alright, somehow we enforced on Kutai, even though I think it looked like they were going to take us down first. Not really sure about that, but I guess we'll take it. Here we can trade war goals, which is fine with us, because we don't even like slavery in Sayak, because it makes people more likely to join in against us. And now we just have this one war remaining, which we joined in exchange for this. And so to some extent, I think we don't really care about finishing this, and we would be content to demobilize our armies. So we can just capitulate here, because we have the territory either way. Sucks to suck. So this is kind of where we're at right now, and of course, all of our rice farms finished. Why did they finish? Well, because they don't have a reasonable, like, construction amount, because they only cost 200 construction. So taking a look, we do see that we have Hainan, which is unfortunately not graced with rice farms. They do have a pretty big construction penalty, but we'll slap down 10 rice farms there just because, I mean, we can. And then we're going to look for any place maybe that we want a 31. Well, I guess we'll max out rice in those places, so that'll be nice for them. They will thank us later. And maybe we just 51 this thing anyways in Hainan here. I mean, why not? We certainly can put rice on auto-expand as well, and this will also kind of greatly help them. Of course, rice only uses one infrastructure because it's stupid. It should really use more than one infrastructure, and we'll put it on auto-expand. Now, just to be clear here, we are building up to 570 rice farms. Now, these rice farms have been doubled from kind of like the normal state of affairs. These are effectively, you know, 1,200 rice farms compared to our 44 food industries. Meh. So, these will be completed in just a second, and let's just take a look at the price of rice. You know, it's coming down. Let's see, can we do new export routes? We can do new export routes. Of course, most of the export routes that are like reasonable are already in, and we just let's just take a look at units. Hey, we're maxing out the units that we can send on rice in a bunch of places, and the productivity of these is super high because the rice is super cheap. So this is making our trade centers a lot of money. Our GDP has you know, not really cranked up too much from this rice kind of spending spree, let's call it, but now we're going to be in a position like we were last time we way overbuilt the rice, and by overbuilt the rice, I mean built an appropriate and reasonable amount of rice. Now the earnings on these are relatively high, and we can think about, you know, expanding into these industries following the rice ones, because they're going to have high earnings because the rice is creating demand. But not only that, I think we might do the same with motor industries, and we might push the motor industries first. Now these, the reason for this, they consume steel, by the way. The reason for this is that, you know, I'm thinking, what happens if we want to swap onto threshing machines, which is going to fire a bunch of pops? Well, I think we actually do want to be on threshing machines in these two places, because there's not enough labor. So, right, steam-powered threshing machines. Now, this is going to create a huge demand for coal, actually. It looks like coal and tools more than anything. So maybe we really want to crank up the coal specifically, but we see that we have a few rice farms that can't employ up because there's just not enough labor, and so by doing this, we're going to make them a lot more profitable. Maybe it's all of, you know, mainland Japan is actually like this, and it looks like it is. And so again, if we want to increase the margins on these buildings, what do we have to do? We have to decrease the price of the inputs. The price of the inputs are both fertilizer and coal. I think we'll start with the coal, but this is going to be how we approach, you know, turning this like absurd building, you know, into some value. Because right now the building is absurd, but none of them are making any money, which is, you know, a consequence of us having like the most unbalanced economy we've ever made in Victoria 3 ever, just because we're cranking up the, I guess we could subsidize Jesus. But this is going to, you know, help out and alleviate this, especially because there's like labor shortages, roughly speaking, in a lot of these places. But we will be building up, I think. Well, looking at this, we see that a major proportion of our inputs, right, are fertilizer and also labor. Labor is actually a pretty big chunk at this point, and so let's see. We will not rewrite whatever. We're not going to rewrite shit, except for this. Look at the prices. They're all like minus 75. I mean, maybe we just build up the grocers and we just increase demand. The food industries have to have huge earnings here. Yeah, look at these earnings on these things. And there's a decent demand, so maybe food industries is the next focus here after developing the agricultural society, and maybe we put in a smattering of coal while all of this rice farms take a little while to clear out of the queue, because the earnings on these are pretty good. In particular, they're going to be really good for, you know, us pushing up over 51. So we're going to 51 in a couple spots where we're almost there, and I think we'll call that for the coal, and then we'll switch back to the food industries. Okay, before we crank these food industries, we're actually just going to do a little bit of chilling, you know, not constructing anything, because we are kind of like in the default space. We are going to disband this, which is going to make all the industries more profitable, because it's going to decrease, or not more profitable, but it'll decrease the absolute glut, because we were getting 20% throughput as well on this, and we'll instead establish, you know, the ones for the sulfur and coal, and we'll just kind of let these, you know, we'll let the construction queue crank a little bit at a depressed rate, primarily leading into the private queue, because that way we can recover a little bit more balance here. I think actually a big reason why we defaulted right there for a moment was because the rice farms started to, the cash reserves of the rice farms went away, which is kind of a little bit spooky. So much of our economy is in here, and your reserves are equal to like all of these, or sorry, your credit line is equal to all your reserves. And so when these buildings become unprofitable, our line of credit decreased in a whole bunch of these. But now we have just an absolute insane amount of rice, and so we can try and export more rice. We see as the price maybe came up that or the price is readjusted, that some stuff readjusted there. Why can we export and have it be not productive? I'm not sure exactly why that's the case, why we can export at a high level and have it not be productive. But it will make our rice places a little bit more profitable. Ooh, do we just need this to kind of fix itself and readjust? Maybe we need more convoys here as well. So we'll see which, where the convoys are the absolute cheapest, and we will put them in those spots, specifically, which kind of makes us flirt with disaster a little bit, or in terms of getting back onto this. But I think we're going to complete some coal mines in time and get back to having a positive balance, and be able to do things. We're going to increase this, of course, because we do want to kind of negate some of the malices we got. Okay, so the grain prices are actually so depressed right now. We definitely overcranked it, but it was funny. That even in China and stuff, where like the labor's basically free, they can't employ up. So this is a little bit of a problem. We put on threshing machine everywhere, but that just means we cause mass unemployment in China, and we need to find a way to get these to having a positive balance, so we need to increase demand for these things in order to do that. Now, that's going to be a little bit tricky, but let's take a look at this heat map of rice that is being produced. We see that, man, it's mostly in Japan. Now, a lot of it is now in Japan that's taken portions of China, but we still take that as a win. I'm pretty sure we're the #1. Yeah, we are now the #1 producer of rice, and we absolutely dwarf the next one. We are the rice warlord, they're the rice boy. And of course, this is all grain, and German empires after that follow, which, like, I mean, they're absolutely huge, mega giga Germany. These guys might be in the mix ahead of them if they weren't revolting. And by that I mean they're having a revolt, not that they are disgusting. But yeah, so this is kind of how things are coming along. We're about to drift into combustion engines though, so maybe let this clear down a little bit, recover some money, but really losing that credit line was actually really uncomfortable. We cranked down our GDP building rice, which is a bit of an interesting phenomenon. It's because we collapsed the rice price, just very, very completely collapsed it. And so while this is like a super OP building, you obviously can't just like have your economy be like, we have the equivalent of 1,200 rice farms here. We have like 130 textile mills. That is not a balance. That is not even remotely close to a balance. And so, but, you know, actually maybe we'll disband this because we are finishing the things. Maybe just the fertilizer throughput increasing will actually be pretty good for us. So we'll put in on the chem plants here in particular, and then we'll get... I wonder if that'll, because it does increase the throughput, right? We do have to wait for a Monday, but yeah, it looks like that actually has a pretty positive effect here. So that's a little interesting that that's going to be the case. Now, of course, you know, these buildings are going to be really profitable. And do we have 1% construction inefficiency? That's fine. We have some of those auto building in Shikoku. And we have 15% construction inefficiency here. We'll build a few here. And then we'll Kyushu it's got some infrastructure problems, so we'll just build in kind of other places here. And just look to add a smattering of these, because these will be generally pretty profitable. And not only will they be profitable, right? They will increase the profitability of all of our rice farms. And I think that this is the pretty... Okay, it instantly defaults us by having the thing, you know, kind of in that sort of situation. But the rice... We'll let this crank down. Our GDP is fluctuating pretty wildly here. But not having all this demand for construction goods is a little bit uncomfortable for us. Now, we are demanding some, so like our private queue is getting like a decent amount of construction done, and it's clearing out the private queue, I'm assuming now, or it's clearing out the investment pool. Oh, the investment pool is like non-existent. There's nothing to be cleared. So we're just going to look to resume this kind of as quickly as we can, which... Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a toggle back and forth. But there's two things going on here. Is you can't build into deficits as easily as you used to be able to. This is something I've definitely noticed. And, ooh, if we could get reduced interest, though. We also aren't on laissez-faire. We really should be. Laissez-faire would be so much better than agrarianism. Mainly for the reduced interest rate. Like, if we had a reduced interest rate here, this would be much more tenable. I mean, we definitely should have gone laissez-faire at some point. We went agrarianism for the memes, the meme team. Interventionism would not be terrible. I think we're not getting a whole lot out of IPT from agrarianism. Like, this was just a meme. Even if we're gonna focus rice moving forward, we're not gonna do it like this. This guy's a protectionist, though, right? So that means he actually supports this. So we can get rid of his malice by doing this. This is actually a law that a lot of people like. And we lose this technology spread malice, which is going to be good for us. Hopefully we can actually, like, clear out this queue and then let the private queue construction take over. We also could just delete down some... Yeah, let's actually just delete down some construction sectors, which is normally kind of how you handle this. We'll just look where has the most expensive upkeep that we actually have construction sectors. We see that a lot of it's in Transvaal. We'll just delete some of those down, which will help out a little bit. Looks like... I don't think that affected our convoys, but maybe it did. It's always like you're always snatching at ghosts when you're like looking and you're like... So let's do that, some of that. And so that's 8 construction sectors down. And so maybe we can build into this 120 here. Especially, you know, just we're getting the ports up. And the ports should increase the trade routes, which will help make... I mean, we're really dumping rice into other people's markets, but it also restores all of this that we had negative. Like, look at this. we could export a level 16 route with 87 productivity. You know, this is stuff of legends here with the, like, in regards to, like, how nice this rice is. And we're, of course, we produce an enormous amount of fruit as well. And a big part is they were in the British market before, right? And so, let's just improve relations with them. They were in the British market before, and they were in a market that had really depressed rice prices because of us, and so they didn't look to build these things. And I think the auto queue for rice might not be good enough for this. We get elastics. We're going to turn it on in one area to stimulate the demand for our overseas rubber, which kind of instantly increases in price, but should normalize relatively quickly. And then I think we have all of our rubber on auto expand, and we are going to need the rubber for our little Tokyo drift that is coming on up. Yeah. So these places are not profitable yet, though. I wonder if we have a place that can make better use of this. Actually, we don't even have that many textile mills. All we have in this freaking country are... Yeah, let's just do this, and then we'll suffer the shortage as things need to adjust. We take a look at the earnings. And you know what? We actually... This is a tremendous opportunity right now for us to switch to rubber. Right? Or maybe we let the fertilizer clear out. Let's let the fertilizer clear out, and then we'll focus on rubber in terms of our company here. Because the fertilizer is also going to be wildly profitable, and not only is it going to be profitable, it's going to make the rice more profitable. Alright, it's time, baby. We get public motor carriages, but most importantly, we get the drift. We are going to take this motor industry into the next level with our little bit of drifting here, which is not going to... What's going on here? Yeah, there we go. These actually, now in patch 1.5, actually increase in price and are, you know, profitable, which is super nice. We are making a little bit of money. We are letting some of our queue idle here, so it's not... the biggest amount of money that we could possibly be making. I think that, let's see, what do we want in terms of tech? We're going to do mutual funds, but it was actually very interesting to watch the economy collapse when we overbuilt the rice, because we have so many rice paddies, and it just made literally all of them unprofitable, and it killed the cash reserve, and then we just defaulted, like, instantly. So this is kind of an interesting phenomenon. I still think the building's ridiculously OP, but you just can't, like, you can't just go absolutely bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, and build 600 of these, which is the equivalent of 1,200, you know, kind of in the live base type thing. We could also just swap all these back to maintain single crop to make the rice a little bit more profitable, but, like, I mean, it's 1,200 versus 20 and 24 or whatever. It's not a bit of a thing. But here with the rubber and the oil kind of coming out up as resources, both are tremendously efficient, and we have the rubber auto-expanding. It's going to auto-expand quite a bit. I think we have the oil auto-expanding as well, and this is going to help us drift, and the combustion engine derricks is going to be pretty nice for that. So let's also swap up the rest of, I guess, the engines, which is like half of our engines are in Tokyo anyways, but this is going to, in the queue, make some significant demands, or will make these things profitable enough to auto-expand, I think, as we finish up the last of the fertilizer here. Also, interventionism is going to be way better than agrarianism. We should have made the swap like forever ago, but we didn't because of the memes. There's a lot of improvements that can be made on this run, I think. I think we did a lot of inefficient stuff, like, for amusement purposes, but we see this starting to pick up on the oil. So maybe we want to go oil first? Probably not. Well, actually, let's take a look at our prices, our market prices. So we have a shortage of rubber and a shortage of engines. Yeah, we definitely shouldn't have made that swap then. And with the engines, it would actually be best to swap Tokyo down, probably, because it, it would supply engines to the rest of the world, which is kind of funny because that's like the opposite of what we wanted to do. So why don't we come in and we're just going to fix up this kind of like at the very end here, you know, look to, where's the rubber? Here we go. Oh, the United Forestry Conglomerate's a pretty good one, actually, other than that. So we'll take this time to also just blast out, you know, wood, because this will be pretty good as well. I guess we should do the rubber first, huh? Which ones has the highest earnings? I don't think it matters too much. We're just going to look to just build a ton of this. We actually probably should have sorted by infra, but it's not too big a deal. We're just going to, that's probably way too much, actually. And then we're going to put in a bunch of wood while we have this wood construction bonus as well. Wood is just generally hyper efficient, so that'll help out. I mean, it's like a ton in the queue. Well, do we instantly default? Yeah, we instantly default when we tried to fill the queue. We're also going to be fine once we hit interventionism too, I think, because I believe we will get way more from the IPT. Currently, agrarian isn't as nice because it gives more money to the IPT, but it's actually giving nothing to the IPT currently, because the buildings have to be profitable, and none of these are profitable. And we don't have we have completely dumped as much rice as possible into foreign markets. There's not a shred of person who is available to take our rice. The rice is just, it's too nice. It's so nice that everyone has bought as much as they can. They've stuffed their faces. For whatever reason, this is bugged out. I don't know what this is about. Maybe we can look at Russia's market and it'll debug it. Export from Japanese market. We already have a trade route. I know we have a trade route. We have a ton of trade routes. Look at all these rice trade routes with super high productivity. Big nice. But yeah, this is eating the crap out of the convoys. The United Forestry... Oop. That. Too much rice. Too much rice. On that note, we're just going to supersize our face and say, hey, I think we're going to conclude the run here. No, we're going to load back in the game. We're going to load back in the game. So we load back in, and the game is still bugged out, and we cannot export rice anymore. They've had enough. The country said, no more. We can't handle the rice. You want the rice? You can't handle the rice. And so, yeah, I don't think... It's still bugged out, right? Can we actually export now? No. Our trade routes are broken. Our UI is broken. It's not telling us we don't have construction going when we don't have construction going. If we resume, do we just instantly... We'll probably get a couple weeks in. Get a couple... Agrarian party is super caked up here. Ports max levels, kind of an okay modifier, but I think we're going to conclude the run here, you know, after building an absolutely gratuitous amount of rice. This is way too much rice. There's no reason for it. It's completely uncalled for. We did see that there's a line. And the line is when you glitch out the game, I guess. This might be the line. Obviously, this is going to be unplayable if we do this. Also, Qing market, by the way, oh, it happened. So this is kind of interesting. Qing got out of the market, and so since their market capital is here in Guangdong, and we surrounded this early on, this actually bricks their entire market. But yeah, as I was saying, we built all too much rice. It is an insane and absurd building, but we built way too much of it, which just tanked the profitability of it, while at the same time created a bunch of... created a bunch of unemployment, which is not ideal, because these pops got fired off their sub-farms, which is like the classic Chinese experience. If we could get this guy into our customs union, though, that would be super nice. They would benefit a lot from our customs union, but I fear that they're going to otherwise just kind of implode, although they might have been... Yeah, look at this. The buildings just can't be profitable because there's zero market access, because all the market access is over here. Something to this effect. Rubber boom. Certainly need some more rubber. But I think that, you know, interventionism ticking through will probably recover the money, and then we could kind of take off. Definitely too much rice. There's a lot of improvements that could be made on this run, like us failing to pass agrarianism 4 times was a bit of a miss. Also, I think that agrarianism, even though we could get agrarianism earlier than we can the other laws, I think that by an enormous margin, it's not going to be the way to go, because, you know, well, especially right now, the investment pool is not really growing. The reinvestment is not coming from the agriculture, and even if the rice farms were profitable, it would still be predominantly you know, non-agricultural, which makes the IPT from, you know, laissez-faire the way to go. Also, if we were on laissez-faire, we would have a negative interest rate modifier, and so this is, I think, one improvement that can be made on this run. You know, we did kind of, yeah, look, our economy just collapsed when we overbuilt the rice here. This is an interesting phenomenon where buildings can actually really hurt you, because we had profitable buildings and then the profit went away. The forestry conglomerate's pretty nice for, I think we'll be able to, well, see, normally you'd be able to build out of this, like, with kind of this eco, but the thing is all of these buildings have, like, 35–40% more construction costs, and so maybe you just can't, like, build out of these, like, spirals anymore, which is a little bit interesting. I mean, I think we can a little bit better off of interventionism now. Like, if we take a look at the investment pool transfer, we see it kicks up quite a bit. You know, like 30–40,000 once, just as soon as we get interventionism. It's just significantly better, you know, for us and this sort of thing. And then we see that, you know, these are starting to finish. We had a huge shortage, probably overbuilding on these, but this is fine, because I think this is kind of what you want to do with the companies, because you want to be building all one thing. But a little bit of a digression. Let's take a quick look at some of the rice stuff while we can. Let's find the rice. I mean, we could try and subsidize it for a second, but that wouldn't, I don't think that would bode too well. But we are just producing an enormous portion of the world's supply of grain, so much so that we're back. We're also exporting an enormous amount of rice, though, just dumping it into everyone's market. This is a little bit of an experiment. I think that the proper way to play is going to be not playing like this, first of all. We're also dumping a huge amount of sugar and fruit, which also come out of it. It's our biggest trade routes. And these trade routes are wildly profitable because, as big as they are, they can't pull up the price of these products because they're so overbuilt. But what I think that the new way of playing will be, if this rice stuff doesn't get nerfed, which would be absolutely insane for it not to get nerfed, would be that you want to very early on find a province that has rice. You know, there are some rice provinces, you know, over here. If we take a look, or we can't look at potentials, but there's some rice over here, which is nice. I believe there's some rice in here, in South America as well. So Peru, Bolivia, annexing them relatively early and going for the rice farms. Also, La Paz was major buffed. Now they don't have all the construction malices, and they get rice farms. You know, going for Peru, Bolivia, and then, like, building tall in La Paz specifically, and then getting the resources from the rest of these states, because there's a ton of resources, but a bunch of infrastructure problems. This is actually going to be even better than before. I think this will be hyper meta. I think what you will do is you will put on auto expand on rice farms in a couple places, or every place where it's available, and then you'll just leave them alone. You won't just, like, absolutely smash them into 51, and your auto queue will make sure, or will to help encourage it. What you want it to be is so that you're only building, of all the grains, the only one you're building is rice. And the reason for this is, like, if we take a look here at the earning, well, actually this isn't a good indicator right now, but these rice farms have twice the output, they have twice the labor, and they have twice the inputs, but they have the same construction cost, and so it's like 2 buildings for the price of 1, and so there's really not a reason to build, like, anything else unless you are looking to create a local supply. So, for example, this building has more earnings than Transvaal because it's creating a local supply. But outside of local supply considerations, which I think that in terms of Transvaal, I don't like this idea of locally supplying the grain, but maybe you can make an argument for it. I tend to think that, I mean, the millet farms are really profitable here. That's kind of interesting that grain is so expensive here. Is Mabby, like, less effective here or something, or is just pulling it up that much? I mean, as you get more Mappy, it's going to be less and less and less of an effect. But we'll take a look at the grain price. 75%. Now, why do we have a Mappy of 75 instead of 85? I thought we had 85 here. Oh, because it's unincorporated? Yeah, so maybe the thing to do is to incorporate this, because it's starting to have quite a bit of, you know, it's got a lot of explosive factories which have negative throughput from being unincorporated and colonial exploitation. Maybe at some point it's worth it, but the problem is like, man, oh man, do we kind of like the extra throughput from colonial exploitation here? I'm not sure. We're trying to outthrow this run, though. I think we're done with this. It is a little bit interesting. We could keep fighting on. I think that it is fascinating that we like went into this debt default spiral twice in this run, both when we built a ton of rice because we way overbuilt it and made it not profitable, and so we changed it from a business that was relatively profitable to not profitable, and then what this did is this shot down our cash reserves, and so we couldn't hold enough funds to lend out to our country, and we just defaulted rather promptly. I also think us not being on laissez-faire, just not quite used to making that adjustment, because laissez-faire importantly does give you, you know, it's just way better, but it gives you the 25% capitalist investment pool contribution efficiency. As we saw, we're not getting huge contributions from you know, aristocrats and farmers. We were kind of early on, so agrarianism was okay early on, but we can't dump enough of the goods into other people's markets. It's just not possible for us, especially because you know, the convoys thing, we're paying a lot for convoys. We have a lot of convoys for where we are in the game, and it would have been much better to be on laissez-faire, to still build, you know, pretty aggressively the grain, but not super aggressively, and this does have the 25% loan interest rate, which is pretty good, and so also +1 max number of companies, and so I really think laissez-faire is extremely strong here in the context of the run, but we riced it up here. I hope you enjoyed the run. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, you know, do the YouTube algorithm stuff, honk the horn outside, and other than that, have a good day.